Hi guys, welcome back to London. This morning I've come to this Tottenham Court Road tube there. It's the Centre Point building. I'm headed to Oxford Street. I want to take a look at Oxford Street today. Now, Oxford Street, I guess, is London's home, the heart of consumer culture. So, yeah, it's twinned with a little Swedish village on the outskirts of town called IKEA. But yeah, I'm normally all for hidden gems of cafes for breakfast and small independent coffee shops. There are a few here. But I thought today, as we're looking at consumer culture, I'd get breakfast in one of the brands synonymous with that for decades. McDonald's. I've got high expectations for the Egg McMuffin I'm about to get. I've wanted one for weeks. I haven't had one for years, honestly, but low expectations of the coffee, so let's see how it pans out.
I mentioned McDonald's breakfast a few vlogs ago. I think they should open an all-day breakfast bar somewhere here in town, ideally Soho. Breakfast-only restaurants are hugely popular here at the moment, and I said this before, the primary time I fancy or crave a McDonald's breakfast is when I'm hungover. I'm not getting out of bed and making it to a McDonald's before the cut-off point. Anyway, today, I'm not hungover, but I'm going to fix my craving. So, double sausage and egg McMuffin, hash brown, and coffee. So, regular hot drinks, and double espresso.
Over-extracted coffee. That's incredible. Food's good. Yeah. Coffee's not. Caffeine though.
Here's a quick tip. For your restaurant, regardless of your size, if you suck at making fresh coffee, get a commercial Nespresso machine. Nespresso's not great, but it trumps shit real espresso.
Okay, breakfast at McDonald's, just opposite Tottenham Court Road, tube here on Oxford Street. We're actually right next to the Flying Horse pub, which I think is the only pub on the whole of Oxford Street. The reason I've come to Oxford Street today is they've recently announced that they're looking at plans to pedestrianise the street, starting here at Tottenham Court Road and heading, well, initially down to Bond Street. So I thought I'd take a walk along this section of the street today, share it with you guys. Well, people can still drive along it, but yeah, there's three things I think most, I was going to say all Londoners avoid, but I can't speak for all 8 million of them. There's three things a lot of Londoners avoid: talking to strangers in the street, the Central Line tube, and Oxford Street. And I think the reason for those are, if someone stops you in the street, they want one of two things: directions. And if you stop someone in the street for directions, most Londoners will have a lot of time for you. You know, they'll help you out, like a tourist information desk. But yeah, that's probably why we get a reputation for being the most miserable bastards in the country, because don't talk to people in the street, because chances are they want cash. It used to be, can you spare 50p for a cup of tea when I was a kid, and that's kind of evolved into these crazy long stories by addicts. So yeah, they need the money to get the bus to their girlfriend's house, then a bike back, and they need money for the hostel, and the stories are nuts. They bore you after a while. But yeah, the second type of people that want your cash are what we call chuggers. So two words combined: charity and muggers. They're on the street, usually in brightly coloured t-shirts, and they're obnoxious. They actually, most of the time, will actually physically touch you to try and stop you, and they want your bank details. They'll tell you a long story. Again, a lot of them are about cancer research and stuff like that. So they'll say, oh, have you got any family? Yeah, brother, sister, mother, whatever. And so, well, 1 in 3 people die of cancer. Do you want them to die of cancer? One of them will, unless you give us your bank. You know, it's crazy. It's nuts. One of my mates was one, actually. He was super good at it. He used to spend about 6 months to 9 months of the year here chugging. He'd get enough money because they get, well, when he did it, you got a basic rate, and then you got a commission on everyone you signed up. And what he used to do, maybe I shouldn't share this actually, but if you get someone to sign up, they then have 14, I don't know what the cooling off period is, but so he could get friends and family to give bank details. Then after the cooling off, they can then cancel it, but he still gets his commission. It's nuts. They probably, I would imagine they've ironed that out. That was years ago. But yeah, so yeah, if you get stopped on the street, people want your money. But yeah, my mate used to spend 6 to 9 months of the year working here chugging and working in bars. Then he'd go travelling for 6 to 9 months till the money ran out, come back, do it again. But that was years ago. But there's still chuggers on the street. But yeah, Central Line, people trying to avoid that. It's the deepest tube, which means it's the hottest. It's also I think they must have the smallest tunnels because the trains are the smallest. So I'm of average height, and there's hardly any headroom above my head on those trains compared to others. So during the week, it's standing room only, and it's weird. So you can imagine it's the hottest line anyway, and being full up with people in the confined space, it gets even hotter, especially on summer's days like today. And yet the third thing we avoid is Oxford Street. It's not to say I don't get the Central Line, but it's my last resort, and I will come to Oxford Street if there's something I want here, but I'll usually come via one of these back streets. I'll figure out where it is I want to go, the one place I want to go, and then come via Soho and go to the place and leave again. It's not somewhere I would generally come to. Well, I don't go shopping as a hobby anyway, but I know a lot of people do. But yeah, so today I've done so far 2 out of 3 things we normally avoid: Central Line and Oxford Street. But this end of Oxford Street, well, most of Oxford Street, I would say, possibly with the exception of, I guess, John Lewis maybe and Selfridges, a lot of it's just, I guess, low to middle. It's not a luxury street by any means, it's a standard high street, selling consumer stuff. A lot of imports from, I guess, Asia. So we've got a Primark down there which sells very inexpensive clothing. I don't know, to be honest, I have no idea what half of these places do, but it all looks like pretty competitive, low priced imported goods, American apparel. Yeah, with the exception possibly of the department stores, which do sell luxury goods, but it's not a particularly nice street to shop on architecturally. Most of it is a bit of a mishmash. Regent Street, which cuts across it, is nicer, which is part of the Crown Estate, and this is, well, it's that's the Crown Estate, and this is the Council Estate, literally and metaphorically. It's 1.2 miles long, I think. So I've read, from Tottenham Court Road, I guess, right up to Marble Arch if you do the length of it. But yeah, this year we got a new mayor, Sadiq Khan, and he announced, not necessarily plans, but definitely he announced that he would be pursuing plans to pedestrianise the street. And it's been on the table for a long time. So I think, not the previous mayor Boris, the one before that, Ken Livingstone, announced plans to do it, or certainly looked at plans to do it. But then when Boris Johnson became mayor after Ken, that plan was shelved. So now Sadiq Khan has said he will look at it. But so right now they don't have a plan to do it. They're trying to come up with one. I guess the simplest solution would be to, well, I printed off the stats for this street. It's nuts. So any change to it will have significant. Let's see what I printed off. 500,000 pedestrians walk Oxford Street every day. Now it's just gone 9 o'clock in the morning. Some of the stores aren't even open. That's why I came here at this time in the morning. So yeah, a lot. I mean, it's going to take most Londoners half an hour to get here, because not many people live in the centre. So yeah, although a lot of the stores are open, there's people. When I was in McDonalds, there's people with Primark bags. They've already done their shopping. But yeah, 500,000 pedestrians a day. There was a fatal collision here in May this year. So it's not the only street there's been a fatal collision on, but when you read the next stats, it's a miracle it didn't happen sooner. Says these are statements from the mayor's office. So between January 2012 and September 2015, a pedestrian was involved in a collision approximately every 7 days. So once a week, someone's hit by either a bus or a taxi. Most likely a bus, and that's going to hurt. Well, it says there are 4 tube stations along Oxford Street with an average of 470,000 passenger entries and exits every day. Around 270 buses travel along Oxford Street every hour. 270 buses an hour. 15,000 taxi passengers are picked up, set down or carried along Oxford Street every day. So yeah, it's one of the busiest streets, busiest shopping streets, not just in England, in London, in Europe. This is one of the busiest spots, Oxford Circus. So I think you've got Top Man, Nike, H&M, whatever business, whatever that is. But yeah, all the streets along the back streets have got little shops and stores as well. But this is like the centre of activity. This is where most people come. Oxford Circus Tube, if they're heading to Oxford Street later on today, in an hour or two, this will be filled with most of those 500,000 people. And I think the end of the street from Oxford Circus back to Tottenham Court Road is really a bit of a dump. I guess it's the lower rent, but if they pedestrianise it, that will probably change. From here on in, you've got a lot of the department stores heading up towards Selfridges, which is probably the highest end department store on the street. We've got John Lewis, British Home Stores. I think there's a Debenhams as well. And this is probably the stretch a lot of people walk. But I think when they're talking about pedestrianising it, for years it's been on the table, it's been discussed, but their headline argument has always been pollution. And it's a bit of a, well, there's always, you can imagine with the amount of people involved in this, there's always going to be people that disagree with anything. So I would imagine the taxi drivers are probably the biggest opponent to it, maybe the bus unions as well. But yeah, the headline reason for doing it historically has been pollution, to reduce pollution. But it's not a particularly good argument because most of the people travelling along here by bus or by taxi, it's a through journey. There's 20 odd bus routes that go through here, and people on those buses, you know, it will cut down a small amount of the journeys, because it's going to cut. If you get off a tube at Oxford Circus and then get a bus, you're getting a bus to Selfridges. Obviously, from when it becomes pedestrianised, you'll have to walk. But most of the journeys are going to, most of the buses, the 270 buses an hour, are long routes, so they're going to have to be rerouted. So you are going to curb a small amount of pollution, but most of it's just going to be moved. And that's, I guess, the challenge of pedestrianising. There is the simple solution. There's one street north, but at the moment it's one way. The simple solution is to reroute all the buses down that street, make it two-way again, but have, the reason it's made one way is because there was serious congestion on it. So the only solution is to, I guess, reroute a lot of the buses down there, have no bus stops down it and rail it off. Basically be like a through road, but obviously the people on that street are probably going to protest about that. And yeah, there's no easy solution with the amount of volume of traffic and people coming down here. The one group of people, the real beneficiaries of having this pedestrianised will be the shoppers. It will be a much nicer experience, and then in turn, I guess, the businesses. But having said that, the goods in all these stores, the lorry loads of goods are brought in by road. They're not airdropped into the stores, so they still need vehicle access. Otherwise it'll become a little island, like an island. It'll become unpractical for it to operate as a high street. So they do still need vehicle access at some points in the day. But yeah, it will make it a much nicer shopping experience. It will probably make it more competitive to some extent with the slightly out of town shopping centres like Westfield over by Notting Hill. But having said that, I reckon a lot of people go to those because they can drive there. But yeah, it will make it more competitive, especially if they put a canopy over, I guess, the centre of the street, make it a little bit weatherproof. That's probably also the draw for the out of town shopping centres, is you can stay dry when it's freezing cold and raining, which is quite often here in the winter, which is a lovely day today. So yeah, their plan is to come up with a plan to pedestrianise this by 2020. First stretch will be their plan right now is to come up with a plan to pedestrianise from Tottenham Court Road, where we started at McDonald's, to Bond Street, which is just there. So that would be the first stage, and then beyond that, I guess they then have to come up with more plans, because the next from here on in, the next part of the road is realistically the A40. It's really then ultimately it becomes the M40. It's a lot of traffic on that section of it up to Marble Arch. So yeah, it's going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people that currently use the road. And yeah, 20 bus routes have got to be rerouted, so that's going to put 270 buses an hour on other roads. So yeah, Bond Street Station. So this is where the first wave would end. How far they then continue, we'll see down there. That part there, if you're heading down towards Bond Street, cut down there, that is where the more, I guess, more luxurious brands exist, and yeah, the higher end shoppers go. But having said that, here we've got St Christopher's Place. I'm actually going to pop in there. There is, see, there's a clock here and a little doorway. I'm going to go and get a decent cup of coffee after that. Tiny little opening there. You can actually go and get into it around the corner as well. There's a bigger opening to it around the corner. We'll pop in there. But yeah, just wanted to walk as far as Selfridges on this video. There's a bigger one there. But yeah, Bond Street there, which is where the first wave of pedestrianisation will end, and that there is, that whole building there is Selfridges. It's probably one of the most renowned department stores here in town. full of, I guess, mid to high end brands, luxury goods. Probably about five or six different restaurants, and yeah, that is a huge draw, I guess, for both Londoners and tourists. Most of the time if I'm coming here, I'm headed there for something they stock. Yeah, I'm gonna head into the main part of St Christopher's Place, get a decent cup of coffee, and then head back to what I came to do here today. So this is coffee from Bethnal Green. No, I was out there. I've got a field coffee today. Let's give it a go. Yeah, we're in a different world to McDonald's double espresso. Yeah, I definitely recommend Workshop Coffee if you're in town. One of the better, probably one of the best. Small, hot, small, independent chains of coffee roasters with brew bars. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this vlog. Just look at Oxford Street prior to its pedestrianisation, which may never happen, to be honest, but they're hoping to do in the next 4 years. Time will tell. So yeah, until the next time, toodles. Saturday and it doesn't look that busy right now, but you're probably thinking, why do they need to pedestrianise that? It's 9 o'clock in the morning, or not long after. Later on it will be, it's like walking through a concert. It's the only way I can describe it. A huge crowd, and obviously it's like a corridor as well, because you've got the buses and the taxis, the 270 buses an hour. The buses, they say the average speed of a bus is quite slow, but for anyone who's ever driven in London, for anyone who's, you'll know, buses drive aggressively. And I'm not knocking them for doing that, they have to, because the cars, everyone drives aggressively, and if they didn't drive the way they do, they wouldn't get anywhere. Hence the accidents that happen. People don't look where they're going. They step out in the street and blame the victims, I guess. No, there's no solution to the accidents, I guess, apart from pedestrianising it. But yeah, as I said at the start, it's one of the places most Londoners avoid, including myself. So when I do come here, it may never look that busy in my vlogs. Like even when I've made Christmas videos here, you'll probably see most of the shops. It'll be late at night when I come, and again today it's a Saturday, but it's early in the morning. So if you come here, most days, most times it will not look like this. I'll try and get a glimpse of it later on. Stick it at the end. We'll do a time lapse of it in full swing around lunchtime on a Saturday. So I guess the other thing to take from that, if you come in here, come early. It's beautiful. Gonna be honest, I started this at 9 because I figured by the time I'd walk down to Bond Street and back here, it'll be about 10 o'clock, which it is now. And I guessed here in Oxford Circus it would be mobbed with people like it normally is. I underestimated how lazy consumers are. Where are they all? I'm gonna have to come back. Come back about 11 and hope they've all got out of bed to commence Saturday shopping. There's not anyone in. got out of bed. This is what Oxford Circus normally looks like. This is the 500,000 people a day. Let's pedestrianise the street. Turn out. We've all finally got out of bed. Yeah, when I was here at 9 o'clock this morning, it kind of looked deserted. This is what it looks like at lunchtime. People, buses everywhere. Okay guys, see you next time. Toodles! Calming music, keeping the crowd subdued.